All right. I am so excited to introduce Allan Misner to our community today. Allan is a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer, a precision nutrition level 1 coach, certified functional aging specialist, which I'm really excited to talk about this today, Allan,
Yeah.
and specialties in fitness nutrition, corrective exercise, behavior change, performance enhancement, and online personal training. Allan launched 40 Plus Fitness online personal training to help people over 40 lose weight, get healthy, and fit. Welcome, Allan.
Thank you, Lindsay.
We're going to have to dive in to so many aspects of that. Let's just first start with how you landed in personal training, where this passion came from, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I was a corporate guy. So I was working my way up C-suite by the time I was 39 years old, managing dozens and dozens of people, making the money, doing everything you're supposed to do, except take care of myself. And so I forced myself to take a vacation because, I was that type A kind of person. I just was never taking vacations. I'd watch them just roll off the calendar every year. I even had bosses say, you need to take more time off. You need to slow down. You're going to burn out. They were right. I was wrong. I found myself sitting on the beach. I bought a timeshare, just showed up. I was so excited. They had volleyball. I was like, okay, I'm going to play some volleyball. It's been years, but I'm going to get out there. I played one game and really almost had them take me to the emergency room because I just didn't think I was going to make it. And so I sat there the next morning and I'm like, what happened to me? I was this athlete. I still thought of myself as the athlete. So I was, 39 years old, but my brain was still the 29-year-old when I was super uber fit. And I was so angry with myself. I called myself the fat bastard. And the reason that came out was what I realized was, okay, I've got this great career. I'm making the money, but I'm miserable and nobody likes me. I'm not good to my family. I'm not good to myself. And yeah, I'm fat and unfit and just a terrible person. And so I made a decision that morning to change. Now, I spent the whole rest of the week drinking my butt off because it was an all-inclusive resort. And then I'm like, yeah, when I get back, I'll fix me. And I tried and failed and failed. I'd lose 20 pounds, gain it back, lose 20 pounds, gain 30 back, lose 20 pounds, gain 40 back. Just terrible. So 8 years later, I wake up in a hotel room in another part of the world. I was working and I was even worse off than I was 8 years earlier. And I'm like, what is wrong? You're still everything you were before. You haven't fixed anything. I mean, you haven't done anything. 8 years have passed and you're still the fat bastard. And so I just sat down and started analyzing my life. And I said, why was I able to succeed on really hard things? I passed the CPA exam the first time I took it. And that back then particularly was not common. I was able to go into the Army and be in the infantry and succeed there. I had a career that I was able to succeed at. Generally, I was an okay father. And so I kind of thought, okay, I'm committed. I did that. But then the word hit me. It's like committed. Every time you did that, you made a commitment to get that done. And that commitment drove your actions and your actions drove your change and helped you do those hard things. And I said, I've never really thought about committing to health and fitness. It just never really occurred to me. I said, okay, what if I did that? What if I committed to health and fitness for myself? What if I committed to taking care of myself? What if I thought about this in the same way when you get committed, like you get married, or maybe religion is better. You basically find your call. And at that point, you have this deep emotional have to. There's no questions in your head about what you do or how you do it. You don't cheat on your spouse. Okay, here's the situation. You don't skip workouts. You're committed. And so it was just this whole concept of I have to love myself for this to happen. I have to commit to myself or it will never change. I'll be the same person that I actually don't like all that much right now. And so can I love myself and really not like where I am? And the answer is absolutely. We do that all the time in relationships and our jobs and the things we do. We love it, but it's hard. And so I knew this was going to be hard. So I started the process and I told my daughter, I said, I want to start doing more with you. I want to participate in your life and not just spectate, because that's another thing that happened around that time. My daughter was getting into CrossFit and she was doing these mud runs and all this cool stuff. And she's just so excited about it. I'm like, okay. So then she says, Daddy, would you come watch me do this CrossFit competition? And that just hit me in the gut. Because again, I still thinking athlete, and I'm like, I should not be a spectator in my daughter's life. I should not be sitting in the stands or standing on the sideline watching her do things. I should be in the game. I should be there with her. And so we did a little warrior dash thing, 5K, which is 3.1 miles, and there's like several obstacles. So nothing super tragic, but I wasn't able to keep up with her. She was much fitter than I was. So I did the thing. I got finished with it. And then I went to her and I said, hey, let's do a Tough Mudder together. Just you and I. And she looked at me like I was crazy, but she said, okay, yeah, that'd be exciting. Okay, a Tough Mudder is like 12 to 13 miles with 25 obstacles. And at the point I took it, it was probably the hardest obstacle course race on the market that you could do as a civilian. And someone had actually died doing a Tough Mudder. So you're reading them newspaper articles and the articles, and it's like someone actually died doing this. So I'm like, okay, maybe I signed up for more than I should have, but that drove me to change everything because I didn't want my daughter to have to wait on me. I didn't want to scare her. I wanted to literally participate and be there with her. And so for the next 8 months, I trained my butt off. I took care of myself. I ate well. I did everything that I needed to do. And as a result of all of this, I lost 66 pounds of fat. I gained 11 pounds of muscle. And I did this, I was 46 years old. Okay. So when someone tells you in your 40s you can't lose weight and gain muscle, you can. You just have to do a lot of good things for yourself. And then we did the Tough Mudder. And the one thing I can tell you out of this was that crossing the finish line of that Tough Mudder, holding hands with my daughter, is one of the most special moments in my life, along with when she was born and she wrapped her fingers around my pinky. And when I just recently walked her across the aisle, down the aisle to get married. And so top 3 memories with my daughter and that Tough Mudder is on that list.
It's amazing. And first of all, congratulations. I know that was a while ago now, but that is amazing. And I have seen people cross that finish line. And you're right. It is one of the most difficult races that we can do as a civilian. I'm agreeing with you. And I don't know if I could ever commit to that at the moment.
You don't have to, which is the other thing we can talk about is fitness is a unique thing. It's unique to you.
Yeah.
And so, I use this concept and we can talk about it if you want, but I call it fit for task. And so task for me right then was to be the father doing a Tough Mudder with his daughter. Right now, I run a bed and breakfast with my wife, along with doing this coaching and podcasting thing. And so I need to be able to carry water around the house. I need to be able to lift things and do things, carry luggage up the stairs, load cars, and do all those different functions. That's fit for task. So my goals are different right now. I'm 10 years older. And then I look ahead and I say, okay, well, I don't want my wife to ever have to worry about me. And I want to make sure I'm there for her. So thinking about what if your spouse fell and needed you to lift them up? And so then I go further. It's like, what if I'm over 100 years old? Am I going to be independent or am I going to need some help? I want to be 105 and be able to wipe my own butt. And so as I was, yes, it is a great goal, I think, but you kind of see how that changes as you age. You still go the aging curve where that doesn't go away. It's just you decide how you want to take that journey. And one of the things is doing this change for myself. People noticed, and I got questions. Friends are like, what happened? How did that happen? How did you go from basically in well over 40% body fat down to well below 20? And I did that in 11 months. And so for most of my friends that didn't see me all the time, they're like, holy crap, man, I want that. And I'm like, I don't know that you really want that. Because again, it's the commitment. And it's the same thing. Everybody sees a happy couple and says, oh, I really want that. Well, okay, go find someone and commit. Oh, no, now I got to think about it. And so that's the disconnect is, can you love yourself enough to commit to change? Because change is the hardest thing for a human being to do. But when you commit to it and then you do it, it has the highest reward that you'll ever get. When you commit to change and you succeed, there's nobody can take that away from you. That's yours. That's yours.
Right. So, what I'm hearing though, and this is where I want to hear kind of the conversation that you had with your clients, you had multiple things going on that were motivating you within this scenario, right? Like the
Yeah.
daughter component alone was a huge part of that. And then the health and the like when you're talking to a client and saying, we need to commit, and then we need to find this why level of why you care.
Yeah.
How do you help them get to that like ask why till you cry type feeling?
Well, you said it yourself. It's the five whys. Is I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, so what? Why? It's like, well, I want to feel better in my clothes. Why? Because I'm not really confident at work. I'm wondering what people are thinking with me being overweight and, my work clothes don't fit quite right. And I don't feel good. I'm like, why? It's like, well, I want to perform well at work so I can provide for my family. Okay. And so you can take it all the way through. You don't want to just lose the weight. You want to feel good. You want to be there and you want to know that you're contributing to the wellness of your family. That might be more of a man thing. For a woman, it might be, I want to have the energy so that when my kids come home from school, I can help them with their homework and still have energy to run down to the park and play with them so they have a great childhood experience. Okay. And so as you start thinking about where you are today and who you need to be, you need energy to be the person you need to be with the people. Like I call myself the fat bastard. Why? Because I was sitting on the sidelines and I was not an active participant in my daughter's life. I was not living my best life. And had I continued down that track, I have no doubt whatsoever I would have burned out completely from my job and eventually probably even lost that. So there were, like you said, a whole lot of things that I looked at, but they all came to one thing. If I don't take care of me, I can't take care of anybody else. I can't work well. I can't produce there. I can't be there for my family. And so the only answer, the only thing I could do at that point was to change.
I want to highlight this dichotomy that you're talking about because I think this is so important. And I don't know if everyone's on board yet, but you're stating this that we can love ourselves and still want to change all in the same breath, all at the same time. And when did that kind of like light bulb for you? Was that a hard belief system for you to come into?
I had a little easier because part of my wiring, my mindset wiring was considering myself an athlete. And so I work with my clients. I have clients that are all across the board. Okay. And so what I started finding was these commonalities of, okay, some people need a big freaking goal in front of them, like a Tough Mudder. Okay. Okay. And so that's a bucket. There's a certain number of people that, yes, I want that big, I want something scary in front of me that I'm going to work toward because that makes me work harder. Other people just really need to feel traction. They need to feel like something's happening. And so if they lose traction, they're off the road and that's no good for them. So getting consistency and doing the thing makes them just feel like they're accomplishing something. There's another kind like I was originally looking in the windshield. It's like, oh, I was 30 pounds lighter in this picture. And I like how I looked then, and now I'm not. And I try to do the same things that worked then, and they're not working now. And this is a menopause thing, and maybe I'll never look like that again. And so they're spending all this time looking backwards and not looking forward. Another one is pedals, meaning, okay, a new diet comes along, a new exercise program comes along, and they want to try it. They want that variety. Give me something new every day. And they don't really see any progress because they're like, well, you just keep throwing something out. You tried the pickle diet and then did that for a while. Oh, here's a Twinkie diet. I think I like that more. And then you're over here saying, well, no, such and such is saying I just have to do this aerobics class every day and I'll lose the weight. And it worked for her. And so you're all over the place and you're not focused on anything to see what works for you. And then the final one is the co-pilot. And I think this affects more people that are female. And what it is you're the caretaker. You're the mom. Your whole life is surrounded by taking care of other people. And you don't really feel supported in doing this because workouts take time away from your family. And cooking the meals that your kids will eat is more important to you than cooking the meals that are healthy for you. And so you just can't piece together a way to take care of yourself, and you haven't built or asked for the support system to help you do the things you need to do for yourself. And so I call those co-pilots. And so you've got these 5 different buckets that I'm able to put most of my clients in. Now we all have multiple pieces of that. As I said, I was looking backwards. I was a windshield. I was not getting traction. That was causing me a whole lot of grief. And then once I put that big honking target in front of me and said, hey, get that, go there, it worked for me. And everybody's a little different, but you do this self-awareness thing and you just realize I'm flawed. I'm not perfect, but I love flawed just the same. I've never had a perfect wife. I've had a few, but it's like I've never had a perfect girlfriend, spouse, significant other, anything ever. They always had some flaws. I accepted those. I didn't try to change that. I just said, okay, I'll just build a better relationship with them. And that builds the self-love. So you can think of changing, but you're changing for a reason. And it's not because there's something broken or wrong with you. You're just on a journey, and we change. Like I said, I did 46. I was doing Tough Mudders. I'm now 57. I'm not doing Tough Mudders right now, but I know I'm within 6 months of training to be ready to do another one if my daughter wants to. So, it's just looking at where you are in your world and saying, okay, I'm going to change over time. At one time I had a full head of hair. Now I don't. Some of that's on purpose, but mostly not. And so we just change as we get older. And that's part of the aging process. It's part of the beauty of living a life is that there is change. Because if you can imagine, okay, everybody thinks, well, if I could have just stayed 17 or just stayed 21, whatever that age is for you, and never changed, I would have been so happy. And I don't think that's true. I just don't. I think everybody wants and needs change over the course of the aging process, seeing the generations before and after. I think that's all just a part of this experience that we have. So wanting change and still loving what's around you at the time, completely congruent.
Yes, thank you. So beautifully stated. And I knew you would wrap that up with a bow. That was awesome. I think my community would kill me if we didn't really dive into this for a minute, but we do talk 40 plus fitness. I need you to pour so much hope and love over us that once you have reached 40 plus, your changes are not done. There is so much more for you, and those limiting beliefs that we can't lose weight. Talk around all of that.
Yeah. Of course, dealing with folks over 40, we're all in a certain aspect of our lives where things are changing and they don't feel like they're changing for the better. So women at that age are hitting perimenopause or going into menopause. Men are going through are similar, but not close. So guys, don't think ours is nearly as bad as theirs, but we go through what's called andropause. So our testosterone's dropping and we probably had a few too many beers. So our estrogen's probably a little higher than it needs to be. Start putting on body fat, that it kind of makes the problem even worse. So our hormones are not in our favor. When you start talking about change, it's a lot easier for a 25-year-old to do this stuff than it is for a 45-year-old. Across the board, it's easier for them. But change is possible because the human body is one of the most amazing things that's ever existed. And the reason I say that is as long as you can take another breath, you can do something to improve yourself. 88 years old, you can go lift weights and start getting stronger. Now, you're not going to lift a ton of weights when you first start, but you can start. And if you're well into your 80s, you can still gain muscle. So think about that. An 80-something-year-old person can add muscle mass. Is it easy? No, but they can do it. Okay. And I had a client come to me. So funny because she didn't want to work for me. She's like, no, I don't think anything will work. I said, well, okay, we're having this conversation, Susie. So let's get real about it. I said, why do you think it won't happen? She says, well, I'm in menopause. And I keep reading how it's impossible for a woman in menopause to lose weight. And I said, so you really believe it's impossible for you to lose weight? And she said, yeah. And I said, I don't. And I said, here's what I do. That I will give you a 100% money back guarantee. You commit to work with me for 12 weeks, just 12 weeks, and you pay me. And if I don't help you lose weight, you don't hit the goals that you have for that 12 weeks, I'll give you all of your money back. She not only hit the goals, she doubled the weight loss because we put a number out there. If you were 29 years old and tried to do this, what would you have lost? And she said, oh, probably this amount. I said, well, okay, let's do this. And then we started working on it. That was our goal. We shot past that goal by week 6. And then she ended up doubling that weight loss. Now, I worked with her for about another few months. So 6 total months. And she lost 41 pounds. Could not believe it. She's like, I cannot believe that this worked. And I said, okay. And I said, now you've done it. And she did it. And, again, I'm the coach. All I can really do is advise, guide, support, and a little bit of accountability here. But the base point being is your body is capable of amazing things. You just have to give it what it needs. Good nutrition, movement, manage your stress, and get good sleep. And the body responds by making you healthy and vibrant, shedding excess pounds, building muscle if that's what you're working toward. It can do all of those things. You just have to give it the right inputs.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, you're so confident in that to be able to say, because I think with training and weight loss, it's so much on the client for you to come in with that confidence. She needed to borrow your belief until she could believe. And I keep advising that with clients, like borrow your coach's belief that we're obviously doing this because we do believe you can change, or else why would we want to be doing this work? So
right. There are 2 kinds of motivation. And so you'll hear about intrinsic motivation, which is internal stuff. And there's extrinsic motivation, which is external. The cool thing about extrinsic motivation is very easy to get. It's very easy. You hire a coach. That's one kind. It's a kind of what I call a leader coach. Or you join a group. And so you're doing a fitness class, or, maybe it's a diet thing. And, there's a group of people meeting. And so you've got that accountability from other people. You're part of a social extrinsic motivation. The internal is a little bit harder, but it's not that hard once you get started, because motivation works a little bit different than we think it does. Motivation comes from doing. Motivation isn't something that makes us do it. And so if you go out and say, okay, I'm the boss of me. My boss says I'm at the office or at this meeting at 7:00 every morning. Okay, well, if you're the boss of you and you're meeting your boss at 7 at the gym, that's intrinsic motivation that's coming from the self. And it's more of a leader, kind of, again, similar to the leader thing. I'm at the gym at 7:00. My boss is waiting for me, and I'm not going to not show up because it's my boss. Okay, that's one kind. And then the other is more of the social thing, which is, look, I mark off X's on my calendar every time I go to the gym, and I'm looking at the calendar that I just did for March, and I have a whole lot of X's on that calendar. That feels pretty good. And then you're standing there and you're trying on maybe an outfit that was a little tight 2 weeks ago, and it's actually fitting pretty good. And less so, I would say, step on the scale, but everybody's going to do it. So you do it, and you notice now the scale is actually giving you numbers moving in the direction that you want it to move. All those inputs are coming in, showing you that what you're doing is working. And those are the intrinsic motivations, like, hey, I can do this, and I'm doing it. So all 4 of those are valuable, and you want to mix and mingle those to fit your particular needs and where you are in your life. Hiring a coach is the fastest, easiest way, because you literally just call a coach, you find one that you really like, and you say, hey, I want to work with you. And they're going to help you because they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to give you the guidance. They're going to solve a lot of problems that you would take a lot of time to work through, because trial and error comes with a lot of error. A coach that's coached a lot of people can help you avoid a lot of that time and help you get things done faster.
Yes, thank you for being an advocate for coaches. I could not agree more.
I think
coaches. A lot of people get, I know, well, I think people get hung up in this. I can't believe I'm paying for somebody to help me do this. Like, I can do this on my own. I know I can. And even if it's just for the fact of expediting the process, like you were mentioning, it's worth it, because once you see that progress, that intrinsic motivation builds and builds. So, yeah.
Well, when I was training, I hired a coach.
Yeah.
I would go to the gym all the time, and everybody, if you go to a gym at a particular time every day, it's the same people. Okay, now New Year's, a lot of other people come in, they stay in for a few weeks and then they leave. But you start going to the gym every day at the same time, you'll see the same people. You'll start saying hello. You might even have a conversation with them. And then you just know, well, I'm going to see them at the gym. If I'm not there, they're there. Okay. And so see, that's driving. Then you're there. You're then starting to see results because you're consistent. You're the boss and you say, look, I told my trainer I was going to be there at 7 o'clock. I'm there at 7 o'clock. My trainer told me to cut back on this type of food, eat a little bit more whole food, get some more veggies in my diet. I'm doing that because I know I need to do that. So all those little bits of motivation, wherever they come from, the more the better. But you notice how each one of those required you to do something first. None of them were like this just thing that just showed up and said, hey, I'm here. You had to go hire and look for and hire a coach. You had to join a class. You had to show up at the gym, be the boss and say, okay, 7 o'clock meeting with the boss, be there. And then you started seeing the results and because you were doing it consistently, but all of those required doing before you got the motivation. And so that's really where the magic of this comes in is motivation isn't going to come. It's not just going to magically show up and make you want to start training or start eating right. You have to find the right mix of those motivations, those intrinsic or extrinsic, to make you do the things that are necessary.
Right. It's flip-flop from how people feel. They feel like they should feel motivated and get going, and it's action first, then motivation. Yes. I want to make sure that we hit this because you have a book out in the world, The Wellness Roadmap. Talk on that for a minute, and a podcast. You have so much going on.
I do a few things. Yeah. The book is called The Wellness Roadmap, and it's a guide for people over the age of 40 to get healthy and fit. And basically what I did was I kind of mapped out how I went about looking at health and fitness and doing the things. So I use an acronym called GPS, which is how I figured out how to set my why, my vision, understand myself better, set good goals, and get myself to a destination. And then the streets part of the book is really just laying down what are the strategies, tactics, what are the things you should do or think about while you're putting together your plan. And at the end, and this is one that a lot of people miss, is called cargo, and that's celebrate. Every little win, celebrate. Now, not necessarily food, but celebrate every little win because that's the motivation. That's where that motivation stuff comes from. And then reset your goal. So I wanted to be able to do a Tough Mudder. Well, then I did the Tough Mudder. If I just stopped there, I might have slid right back to where I started. So set another goal and then go. And so it has a structure to it of how you can get where you want to go and then find the next destination because life is a journey. It's not it's a continual journey. It's not a get to something. You're always going somewhere and you get to decide how you do that. And that's what this book does. It's available everywhere you want to get a book. It's also an audio book if you like my voice. And then I do have a podcast. It's been going on for a long time. I launched it in 2015 and I think I dropped episode 580 today. And so, yeah, it's been around for a while. But it's basically where I bring in guests. I read their books. I read every single book of every guest I bring on. And I do that personal reasons. I know you had Zach and Jeremy on not long ago, and they were saying how there was a selfish kind of component to having the podcast. Well, I get to talk to a lot of my health and fitness heroes because they come on my podcast. But one of the reasons I like the conversations is because I've already read their book. So now I can really dive in and say, okay, what's practical? What's something we can do? What's something that matters? And so I do that. I also have a few, I'll throw in some solo episodes here and there. And I have a female co-host, Rachel. And so she's like maybe about 5 years younger than me, but we play off each other pretty well because she loves to run. I'm okay with running. I prefer to be in the gym lifting. I like that. She is okay with lifting. Again, so we kind of play off and then male, female. And so we discuss the interviews. So we go through after we've had that conversation. We talk about, okay, what do we learn? What's something that's more valuable? Kind of summarize at the end. So kind of an opportunity to connect with both of us. She's more of the run coach. I'm more of the weight loss fitness coach. But yeah, that's how we do the podcast, 40 Plus Fitness.
Oh, it's yes, we need to pop over there and start listening. And the fact that you're on episode 500, I commend you. This will be 200 and somewhere in the 20s when yours releases.
Yeah, I saw that. You've been going since 2018.
Yeah, which it's just crazy because that to me feels like a long time. And for you to throw out 500 episodes.
I started out a little ambitious. I was doing 5 episodes a week. And then I did that for several weeks. And I think I was at somewhere around episode 80 when I said, okay, I'm going to drop this down to threes because I also only did 15 minutes, 5 days a week. And then I dropped it down to 3 episodes and got a little bit looser about the time. And then I said, okay, so I dropped it down to once a week and threw in some specials. And what I just found was that it's good. It puts a lot of content out there to help people find the things that they need, which they were doing. They were picking and choosing. But just the investment of time it takes to read a book, and you're trying to have 3 episodes a week. I can read really fast, but that's a tough one. And sometimes I do have 3 interviews in a week. Even now, even though it's a weekly show, it's a lot of reading in a short period of time. And so I can do it, but that's a load. So it's better being once a week. It works very well for me. Every once in a while I throw in a solo episode, but the odd thing is the solo episodes actually take me longer to plan and do than the interviews, but it's neither here nor there. But right. I get to read these great books and have on these awesome people. And I'm just blessed to be able to have those conversations with some really awesome people covering some great topics that help people get healthy and fit.
I just talked about that with my membership clients this morning, that we need to keep curating our surroundings and people who are speaking over us and motivating us. And I think as podcast hosts, we are just blessed that it's just built into our lives and that we get this amazing conversation on a Thursday afternoon right now, that we need to keep helping our clients find how to get that accidentally, how our lives are built out right now. So.
Yeah. If you're listening to a podcast like this one, this is an awesome one too. I love the name, by the way. That direction, not perfection, is just that's brilliant. I wish I'd thought of that one. But anyway, she's having these conversations with some very interesting people. Many of them are authors, many of them are podcasters. Go over there and check that stuff out. Different people resonate, different people have different messages. And you're not going to listen to 580 of my podcast episodes, but you go over there and say, hey, I'm dealing with shingles, and he had Tony Horton on, who had that really bad episode of shingles. I want to go check that out. And one of the things I end every podcast with is I have a guest tell me, what are your 3 things that people should be doing to be well? And by well, I mean healthier, fitter, and happier. Put all 3 of those in a bucket, and that's what wellness is. How do we get people there? What are your top 3 tips? So every one of my episodes now has those top 3 tips. So you can just be scrolling through and say, oh, he had Denise Austin on the show. I wonder what hers were. Tony Horton. I wonder what his were. You guys might, most of you guys, if you're over 40, you probably know who those guys are. They were the ESPN. They were the P90X. They were the ones that we looked up to when we were in our 20s and maybe even teens. But it's cool because I get to talk to those people and bring out some really great value for you any episode. But not just mine. This is anytime you resonate with one of Lindsay's guests, go check them out. Scroll through their catalog of what they've got out there. Read their book if it's interesting to you. I have several guests on. We talk about menopause. My wife went through menopause, so I went through it with her, and that's just part of the challenge. You're not the only one aging in your life. Everybody else is. And so the more you understand about it, the easier it is for you to do it. And so I'd encourage you to really work on educating yourself. And the more you start to know, the more you get to like. And the more you get to like, the more change you're able to affect, not just for yourself, but for your kids, for your spouse, for your parents, all of that. I write workouts for my mom.
Mm-hmm. I know the whole family gets affected in a beautiful way if open to it. Agreed.
Yeah.
Hey, just like you, I feel like I always close out with what I love to hear is, if you could wrap your arms around our community, what would be the one thing that you hope and pray that they hear today out of you if they hear nothing else?
Okay. You can do this. You just have to start. And so I have a mantra. I say, better me tomorrow. Okay. And I made a hashtag, but you probably won't see much of it because I just don't post enough to make it matter. But better me tomorrow. So if you could do one thing today to know that it's going to make you healthier or more fit or feel better about yourself tomorrow, do it. don't ask. You don't need permission. Just do it, because anything that's going to make you better tomorrow is worth doing.
So good. It feels so simple, but so good and so true. Thank you. You have been an
Thank you.
absolute treasure to have on today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate it. Thank you.